Okay. So in our last session we covered these topics. I mean, we saw some very basic topics, but very useful ones. Data validation is again a very useful when you are working in an operation project and you are tracking the status and all those things. Conditional formatting very important. You definitely need to make use of this. When you are working on a when you are doing a reporting or dashboarding. Hyperlink, yeah, there is a very good use case we saw about creating a knowledge base, using an hyperlink. Again, a very easy option, but a very useful thing. Then text formula, date formula, aggregated formula. We saw how to use sum, count, average, and all those things. If function, we saw a very basic if function. Okay, today we are going to start with if function. Okay, so let's get into the topic. Okay, so before we start, uh, we'll just answer the query that Rupesh had. Okay, see, this particular cell has a formula. Okay, you want to clear the formula. Okay, on this, all you need to do is Control C. You can do right click, and then there is a paste special option. Okay, here when you click on this, when you do a value, you will get rid of the formula here. Now it is just a value, it is not showing formula. Okay. And the second use case will be, let's say you want to apply this particular format in some other cell. Let's say in this cell, I'll just copy this. I'll just put my cursor on the cell, right click, paste special, format. Okay, now if I mention fail here, it will become red. When I pass here, it will become green. Any questions on this? Yeah, so you need to copy first, only then it will get activated, maybe. Okay. Okay, it looks like someone is trying to join. Okay, all right. Now let's I'll start again with an if condition, because we are going to see the nested if condition after this. um, let's prepare the use case. Okay. Now, so we have we are starting with a very basic if condition. So there are three subjects and there are two subjects, three subjects and three students. Okay, Yashvi, Swara, and Shaurya. Okay. Now the prerequisite is, like, as everyone know, the total mark should be 105 for the three subject passing mark. Let's see how to do that. Equal to if, when you start if condition, there are three parameters you need to pass. Very first is the logical test. What do you want to test? I want to test whether my total is greater than or equal to 105, comma, what value you want to put if the condition is true. I want to say pass. What value you want to give if the condition is not met or false. I want to give it as fail. Okay, now I have applied conditional, so I'll just remove it for now. Clear rules from selected cells. Okay, now if I drag this, it is applied to all the. Okay, this is my very simple if condition, and it's um, basically the three part that is required here is, what is my logical test, what if the value is true, what if the value is false. Okay, now in this condition, even though it is giving pass, Yashvi has not scored more than 35. Okay, in, so technically she has failed, right? But the formula that we have written is giving pass, which is not correct. Now see how to do that. We'll see how to do that. Equal to if, I'll have to make use of an operator here, and operator. And English greater than 34, max greater than 34, and science greater than 34. These are my three condition. And when you use and operator, all conditions should pass. Okay, only then it will be considered as pass. Even one condition has failed, it will not consider as, it will consider that as failed. Now these are my three condition, that the value should be greater than 34, then give pass, else fail. Okay, now even though Yashvi has scored 229, which is which is the second highest in this particular example, but she has failed because she has not scored more than 35 in science. Okay, the moment you change this to 35, this is changed to pass. Okay, and or operator is like for and all conditions should met, only then it will be considered a pass. And or is like even though one condition is passed, it will give an true value. Let's see what I now let's keep this as 31. Okay, now I'll just copy the same formula here. I'll do control C. I'll press F2 if you want to copy the same. Now I'll just copy and I'll just paste here. And instead of or, and I'll use or. Okay, now when I use or, it is giving pass because there are two conditions which are meeting, right? One condition is not meeting, but since we are using or, even if one condition is passed, it will give you a true value. Any questions on this? So we saw this in the last session, but I just wanted to cover this again, because we are going to see some nested if after this. Okay, I'll consider this as silence, as that everyone has understood this. Now uh, this is what we saw is just a basic if condition. Okay, some people are trying to join. Sorry about that. Okay, now we'll see how to use a nested if condition. What is nested if condition? Like there could be a scenario where you want to use multiple if conditions, for one particular use case, and we'll see that use case now. Now this is my use case. So these are my. Sorry, some people are trying to join. Okay, so now this is my use case. Use case is if the sales is greater than. I think someone asked this question in the last session. Okay, we will also see how to apply condition formatting on this. Okay, my use case is this is my small data set. It has the category and the product name and the sales value. Okay, and this is irrelevant right now. Just remove this. Okay, now the condition that I want is if the sales is greater than 100. Okay, then it should be good. Assume that these are in say thousands. Okay, okay, these are my condition. If the sales is greater than 100,000, then good. If sales is greater than 60,000 and less than 100, then average. If sales is less than 60, then poor. Okay, now we'll see how to achieve this using if condition. We cannot use this, you achieve this only with a single if condition, because we need to make use of nested if condition here. I'll write equal to if my very first condition is this is greater than equal to 100, then good. Okay, here it's very simple. I just wrote one if condition. Now before giving false value, I'll start one more if condition here to my logical test. I need to make use of AND operator. This is greater than less than 100, and this is greater than equal to 60. then average. Now third condition is less than 60. Now that is my last condition. I can give that in my false statement. I don't have to write if condition for that. Okay. Now assuming there are four scenarios, then I will have to write one more if. Now because I just have three conditions, I can directly write my third condition under the false. I'll just do comma, else I will say poor. I don't have to write if sales is less than 60 because it is my last condition. Okay. It is my third condition and I'm putting it under false statement. Now my, if you just see the formula, if it's greater than 100 then good, if it is between less than 100 and 60 then average, else what is remaining is less than 60 only, right? As hence I don't have to write the entire thing again. Else poor, it will automatically assume. Now see, this is average because it is greater than 70, this is poor because it is less than 60. Even though I have not mentioned it, if condition for the poor, it has automatically assumed, taken it because it is the else condition, the final else condition. Assuming if I have any fourth condition here, then I will have to mention it explicitly here. Any questions on this? Now let me try apply a conditional formatting here. Highlight cell value equal to, let's say good, then it should be green. Okay, highlight equal to poor, then it should be red. Highlight equal to average, then yellow. Any questions? Okay, so you know currently I've just used one if condition. The nested if, there is no limit to the if condition you can put. Okay, you know I have worked on some examples when I where I have to write more than 10 if condition under one. There are use cases that I have dealt with which has more than 10 if conditions. Okay, so it can be that difficult scenarios that may come in the real business world can be that tricky or difficult. But yeah, if you understand the basic of if nested if, then I don't think it will be challenging. You need to practice this basically. Try to make your own scenarios, try to use different scenarios and try to make the formula. And once you get the foundation of this, then irrespective how many if conditions you have to write, it will not be challenging. Let's say I will add one more condition here just to make one more you know if condition here. Let's say less than 60 and greater than 40, below average, less than 40. Now we'll tweak our formula to meet this. Now I will have to write, let's say, if and is greater than 100, 60, greater than 60, is less than 60, greater than 40, and C7 less than 60, then below average, else poor. Now we have added one more condition here. This is below, this is coming in this particular threshold, hence it is below average. And there is one poor example here. We, how many if condition did we use here? This is one, two, three. Okay, three if conditions. As I said, there is no limit, depend upon the scenario. You may have to write, 10, 15 if conditions also. It can be that uh, complex sometimes. Okay. Just equal to blue, average, yellow only. Okay. Yeah, this thing you'll have to practice, to get registered completely. Uh, it's very important, when you are learning Excel. If condition is something very important, you will have to use it, every time, when you are working on a reporting or analytics, you're doing trying to create some visualization. There will be hardly any scenario where you don't have to write if conditions. I think 9 out of 10 times you will have to make use of if condition. So I would recommend, to get this, completely well versed with. Practice this as much as you can whenever you get opportunity. Try to create your own scenarios. Okay, we'll move to our next topic, that is pivot tables. Okay, so pivot table is basically a very very important topic in Excel. When you want to, so you have a large data set. This is my raw data. Looking at the data, it's not making any sense, right? It's just a raw data. There are a lot of, rows and columns. Just by looking at the data, it's not making any sense. Let's say you want to derive some meaningful insights out of it. You want to understand what is my segment wise sales, in a tabular format. You don't want to make use of chart. Okay. uh, just, get some basic insights कि मेरा total sales कितना है, overall sales कितना है, region wise sales कितना है. Okay. At that time you want to pivot the data. Okay. You basically, aggregate your data in such a way that you can derive meaningful insights out of it. Now let's see how to do that. I'll create one more sheet here. Now this is my raw data. So there are multiple ways to create a pivot. You can put your cursor here, you can go to insert, and then there's an option called pivot table. यहाँ से from table and range, it will ask you to select the data range. Okay, click on this arrow mark and go to your raw data. Okay, you can select a specific range or an entire column. I'll select an entire column here. I will drag and I'll select my entire data. I'll select it A to U. This is one way. The other way is you just select the data, you go to insert, you go to pivot, and you do OK. So it will create a one more tab. Okay, I'll delete this for now. Okay, so we now very first thing I want to know my say segment wise sales kitna hai. I'll put, so there are four options here. Here you want to apply any filter. Here we have rows and columns. Okay, I want to put my segment on rows. Okay, blank is coming because we have selected entire column. There may be some blank value. If you just select the range, a particular data range, then you will not see a blank value. Now I want to select sales. Okay, sales, and say I'll also take quantity. Okay, now it is aggregating the value. It is summing the sales and summing the quantity, based on my selection. So it is giving me total consumer का sales इतना है, corporate का and home office का इतना है. Blank, we can get rid of blank by just deselecting it from here. Okay, now this is one simple pivot that we created. It's very useful to get insights out of your data. Just by looking at the raw data, it is really challenging to find the insights. Now next thing I want to do, let's say create one more pivot. Okay, I'll create one more pivot. Insert pivot. I'll select my range. I'll go to raw data. I'll select the entire data set. Now this one is again I'll take segment, but segment के अंदर I will also want to see my subcategories. So I'll put that into subcategories again. So when you so I put two values under the row shelf. Okay, that is segment and subcategories, and then sales here. Then quantity. Okay, I'll just change the format of this. I'll right click pivot table option display. I'll make it classic. Okay. Now if you want to apply any filter, let's say if you want to just want to go back to the pivot selection, do right click and then pivot table options. Not so sorry, it's show field list. Let's say if you want to apply any filter, you want to see only corporate and home office, you don't want to see consumer. So what you can do, segment if you put here, it will, okay, it will get rid of, it will from here also, here only you can filter. Okay, just click on the arrow and then suppose if you want to apply any other filter, suppose if we have a fiscal year, um, let's see what is that we can filter. Okay. Yeah. Subcategories, categories. Let's say if you want to apply filter on categories. Okay, I'll put category on my filter shelf and I want to see only um furniture and office supply. I don't want to see technology. Then I'll select only furniture and office supply. I'll just uncheck technology. Then the values it will show on is only for the selected items. Okay, I know many of you are well versed with pivot table and you must have used it, somewhere in your work. But there could be someone who is a very beginner to Excel, and for them it will be very useful. Okay. Now let's say you want to add slicers. Want to slice your data, based on your based on the insights that you want to see. Let's apply a slicer here. I'll click on my first pivot. See, when you click on your pivot, there is an when you click on your pivot, you will see one option getting enabled here. That is called pivot table analyzer. You click on that. There is an option called insert slicer. Okay, when I do that, it allows me to select the field I want. I'll select segment. Okay, now this is, I mean, you can call it as a dynamic filter. If you want to select only consumer, want to select only corporate, only home office, want to remove the filter, you just need to click on this clear filter option. Okay, now one thing you notice that this is only filtering this particular pivot because I have taken the slicer from this pivot, right? Now you have a scenario that you want to apply this slicer on both the pivot. Okay, so what you need to do is right click on your slicer. There is an option called report connection. Here you need to check the option. Okay, now if you do that, you will see it is filtering both. Someone trying to join. Okay, all right. Okay, so it's very useful. Many people prefer sharing reports. Yeah, so this will work only if the pivot is generated with the same data set. Let's say if you are creating pivots with the multiple data set, then it will not work. What the combining of this option, I'll repeat. Okay, I'll repeat the entire see. Very first thing, to get the slicer, you need to click on your pivot. The new option will get generated here, pivot analyzer. You click on slicer. There are various options available here. I'll take a segment. Now when I click on this, it is filtering only this particular pivot. Okay, corporate, and then now I want to link this particular pivot also with this slicer. All I need to do is I'll first clear the filter. I'll do right click. There is an option called report connection. I will check the selection. This will work only if the pivot, both the pivots are coming from the same data source. That is, in this case, both the pivots should come from the raw data tab. If one pivot is coming from raw data and one pivot is coming from different Excel file, then it will not work. Okay, so that's a prerequisite here. Now if you click, you see both the pivots are getting filtered. Okay, yeah, this is very good option. Like as I said, many people prefer creating reports in these forms. A good way to share insights with your you know company or a stakeholder. Any questions here? Yeah, again, there are a lot of options to explore. You want to change the format and everything. Let's say I want to make this as a dollar. There's a option called value field setting, show value as कहाँ पे है? Yeah, here it is, number format. Then I'll make it currency. So I will just keep it rupees for now. Okay, but there are various options available which you can explore on your own. Again, pivot table is very vast. There are options to sort the value. Let's say right click and sort largest to smallest. All these options are available. But yeah, very good way to create some basic reports. With when you learn pivot table, you have achieved the first step of creating reports. Even though you don't know dashboarding, you can still create reports through pivot table and share insights with your team or you know your higher management or stakeholders. Okay, any questions? Yes, it does. Let's try that. Yeah, we'll try doing that. I'm not, I generally don't generate create graph using pivot. I prefer a dynamic way, but yeah, but yes, it's a good question. We'll see how, if that works. It will work, right? No, but how to create a chart? Insert. Yeah, where is pivot? I'm looking for the pivot chart option. Acha, here it is. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So let's say if I just create a basic chart from my, okay. Now if I click, yeah, see it is changing. Okay. Yeah. So this is one way. This is one way. Very good way to create charts. Yeah, and again, it's a. I mean, if you want to present something in the chart format, it is a very good way. But what we are going to cover is dynamic dashboarding. I'll not go get into more creating charts using pivot. I generally don't prefer that because I prefer using a dynamic dashboarding, which is basically give you more flexibility, and you'll get to know what I'm trying to say when we get into that particular part. Okay, but yeah, yeah. Thanks, Jaswinder. All right, and again, there is no limit to the number of slices you can have in your view. You can create multiple slices. So whatever fields that you have in your data set, you can create slicer for. Okay, consumer name segment. But again, it depends upon the analysis that you're doing. The data that you want to present with your team or stakeholder. Or okay, any questions here? All right, we have created. Okay, how to create a calculated field? Let me see. Okay. So let's say you have a created a very simple pivot, uh, which has segment, region, and the sales and quantity. Okay. Now you also want to calculate price per unit. Okay, price per unit you want to, that is not available in the data set. That calculation is not available. There is one thing you can do, you can put that in your data set, you can create a formula here. But for the current use case, I want to do it on fly, using pivot table. So the concept is called calculated field. Okay, you want to create a calculated field uh, using a formula. Now to do that, you need to click on your pivot, go to pivot analyze. There is an option called field item sets. Okay, under that, create a calculated field. Okay, now name this as price per unit. Now what I want is sales divided by quantity. Okay, I'll select sales divided by quantity. Okay, this is the formula that I want. Now when you do that, you will see an automatically a new field is generated, which is giving me the price per unit based on the formula I have mentioned here. Then you can format in, you can do some formatting to get rid of the extra decimals. I'll just select and apply it on the all cells. Okay, I just selected the particular cell and then I used the paste special to apply the formula on all other cells. Any questions here? Again, a very useful thing. I mean, you definitely have to like, you'll when you start doing reporting, you'll definitely need this particular concept. You may have to add some fields which is not there in the data set, to do some calculations on the fly. Okay, let's move to our next topic. That is, okay. So before getting to our lookup functions in the complex formula, there is one important concept I want to cover, is self freezing. Okay, I created. Okay. Okay, now understand the scenario first. So my this is my data set. This is my data set. It has an amount of let's say cost. Okay. Uh, so this is my product ID. These are my product. The cost of the product is 300 respectively. I mean, there are different products. Okay, and then there are discounts available. Okay, the first discount is, let's say, 10%. Maybe there is an, understand, there is an hypothetical situation here. Like if you buy certain quantity, you get 10% discount. If you buy, like say, more than say 1,000 quantity, you get 20% discount. It's just an hypothetical scenario I'm creating here. I'll write a simple formula. Okay, equal to this into my formula. Now it is giving me 30. Okay, 30, and then the final cost becomes is like the 300 minus discount, that is 270. Now when I drag this formula, okay, see, it is getting messed up, right? Why? Because I have not freezed my cell. When you see this formula, it is j4 into k3, that is j4 into k3. But the moment I drag my formula, it becomes j5, which is correct, but this becomes k4. Okay, which is 30. I want this to be 10%, to stick to the 10%. What I need to do is freeze my cells. Okay, now when you understand, when uh, this part is row, and the second part, the alphabetical part, is column. Okay, Now for this particular example, I will have to freeze my, for K3 I need to freeze my column. Okay, and for that what you need to do is press, uh, select the formula, okay, from this formula bar, and press F4, F4 button. When you press F4 once, it will by default freeze both row and column. It is freezing by, but that is what I want here, because I want to drag my formula on the right hand side also. So I just need to freeze my column part, okay, for K3, and for J4 I want to freeze only the row part. Okay, so here I have freezed my column part, here I have freezed my row part. Now if I drag the formula, okay, I think I did something wrong. Here it is. See how, I mean, small thing, but people get confused, and even I get confused most of the time. This will be K3. Here you need to freeze row. Okay, because I don't want to drag it to K4, K5, because my 10% is in K3. Okay, and here I will freeze J4. This doesn't matter. Now it is correct. It's going to be very confusing, I know, because you need to do a lot of practice of this, to get it registered. So understand what happened here. My 10% is in my cell K3. The moment I remove all my, freeze dollar sign, right now ये तो चाहिए ही नहीं. Okay, now and if I drag, see ये K3 का K4 हो जाएगा. Okay, but my discount is in K3%, right? I want to keep it constant. Now to do that, I need to freeze my row part. Okay, any questions here? This is going to be confusing, I know. Okay, I'll take it as yes. Now second thing, so इसमें मैंने अभी just I've freezed this part, I've not touched this, and this is not impacted because I am not dragging. So far I have not dragged my formula on the right. The moment I drag my formula on the right, everything gets meshed up. See, this has become, यहाँ पे आ गया वो सेल K4 हो गया J4 का. Hence what I need to do is freeze my column here. यहाँ पे रो और यहाँ पे column. Now if I drag the formula, it is proper. It is automatically taking the 20%, क्योंकि हम लोग ने यहाँ पे सिर्फ हम लोग ने रो फ्रीज किया था, कॉलम फ्रीज नहीं किया था. ओके, सो हेंस ये जो है K का L हो गया, और this remains J because I have freezed the column part. Let's assume I freezed everything. Let's say मैं totally पूरा freeze कर देता हूँ, क्या होता है. इस पे भी पूरा freeze कर दिया और इस पे भी पूरा freeze कर दिया. ओके, नाउ इफ आई ड्रैग, सब जगह पे 30 आएगा. क्यों? क्योंकि यहाँ पे मैंने टोटली फ्रीज कर दिया है. Everything is taking 30% of 10%. Now I'll keep this as K3. I'll keep this as यहाँ पे I am freezing only row. Okay, so if I drag my formula on the right, it will change the column. What I mean is, if I drag on the right side, it will change the column. It will become K2L because I have not freezed the column part. Okay, और यहाँ पे I have freezed the column part. I have not freezed the row part because I want it to change, because I need to drag it downward. Right? Assume ये मैं पूरा freeze करता हूँ. Then everything becomes 60 because वो J4 का, pay attention here. See, J का 4 का 4 ही रख रहा है वो. Right? It is not changing the row. hence I need to freeze only. I'm spending more time here because I know how important it is. It's going to be very confusing, and sometimes it may become tricky to find out what has causing the problem here. Okay, any questions? It's very important concept, very super important. So you need not, definitely there will be, you need not have to write, your formulas in each and every cell. You write a formula, you drag it downward, you drag it rightward. At that time, you need to understand the self freezing concept. Without the self freezing concept, it's going to be very challenging. Formula will get messed up. All right, so you may basically, once I share the recording, uh, you may need to revisit this and get completely well versed with this, before we move into the next the dashboarding concept. All right, let's, this is, yeah, green pivot slicer we completed, calculated field we completed, nested if we completed. Okay, now we are getting into more complex things, that is VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. HLOOKUP, I don't think we need to cover because it's going to be very confusing. I'll not cover right now. I mean, because I want to relate it with the different complex formulas, well, the VLOOKUP and, but yeah, we'll keep HLOOKUP for later. The most commonly formula, lookup formula that is being used is VLOOKUP. Okay, vertical lookup. And then we'll see some complex formulas like sum ifs, and count ifs. Okay. Now first understand what the VLOOKUP is. Okay. Okay. Let's say you have a, see, this is your data set. This is your database. Okay. You call it as a data set or database, one and the same thing. Now it is very vast. It has a row of 5,000. Okay. Blocks. You want to find out information. Let's say someone has given you five order IDs. You want to find out information only for these five IDs. Okay, you want to find इसका प्रोडक्ट का नाम क्या है, इसका सेल्स कितना है, पर्टिकुलर ऑर्डर आईडी का क्वांटिटी कितना है, that you want to find out. Okay, now we need to use VLOOKUP for this. One prerequisite here is uh, the field that you are going to use to find the values has to be unique in the dataset. It has to be a primary key. What I mean by primary key is it has to be there. There is no scope of having it duplicate. अगर डुप्लीकेट है तो डेटा में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, यू नीड ए क्लीनिंग. ओके, आइडियली होता नहीं है. व्हेन यू गेट इनटू द रियल डेटा वर्ल्ड, there are basically developers who ensure that it's primary key, and then it doesn't allow duplicate values, everything. Now let's make a scenario here. Okay, so these are my order IDs. Okay, ये मेरा order IDs है, and you will see that these are the unique IDs. इसमें कुछ भी duplicate नहीं है. When I run duplicate, it is giving me no duplicate value. That means there are no duplicate. And same should be in the case of your data set. Data set में भी ये duplicate नहीं रहना चाहिए. Okay, because this is your primary key. This is your unique value through which you will find out all the relevant information, and that is the rule for your data. Now to write a VLOOKUP, your formula starts with equal to VLOOKUP is called vertical lookup because you are moving vertically. VLOOKUP. Now when you write a VLOOKUP, it will ask for, first it will ask for lookup value. मतलब what do you want to look? What you want to look in your database? My lookup value will be this. Okay. Table array will be my data set. Raw data mein. Now one more thing you need to understand, that the first column that you select has to be your lookup value का column. Okay, in this case I cannot select A से, क्योंकि अब मेरा lookup value का column order ID है, which is in C. So this has to be the first column that you select. Okay, then you just select the मेरे को first चाहिए सब category. Okay, I'll just I'll select the entire data set. Okay, पूरा data set मैं select कर लेता हूँ. Okay, now I need to understand मेरा सब category कौन सा position पे है. सब category 15 पे है. See, ये numbering क्यों नहीं आ रहा है? Alright, column index, it's 15. This will always be 0. Now ये 15 कैसा आया? I'll show you. The first column that I selected is order ID. Okay, this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. In height again. Okay, this becomes, let's do the numbering here. No? Okay. This becomes my 1, and subcategory becomes 14. Acha, I'm taking product there. Okay, so let's change this to 14. Now it will give us bias. Okay. Now, first we saw writing a formula through this formula argument, but we'll see how to do that using just in formula equal to. I'll just remove this for now. Also need to remove the equal to VLOOKUP. Very first thing I need is lookup value, comma, table array is my data set, and the prerequisite is you need to ensure that the first column that you are selecting is your lookup value का column. जो जिसमें से lookup value ले रहा है, that has to be the first column. Okay, I'll select the entire data set. Now I know, मेरे को पता है कि it is my 14 column, but there's a way to find out. Equal to we look up this. See, you can see there is a numbering coming here. Here if you see, यहाँ पे number आ रहा है. वैसे ड्रैग करेंगे तो you will be able to see कि सब category is in 14, 15. Okay, you just need to remember a bit. Category is in my 14, then product name is in my 14th. I'll do comma 14 comma 0. Okay, now I can drag this below, but the moment I drag it here, it gets meshed up. Can anyone tell me why? नीचे ड्रैग किया तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं आया, साइड में ड्रैग किया तो प्रॉब्लम आ गया. राइट, नहीं सेल्फ फ्रीजिंग बिकॉज वी हैव नॉट फ्रीज्ड. सी ये मेरा जो लुकअप वैल्यू है वो C3 में है. राइट, व्हेन आई ड्रैग इट हियर विदाउट फ्रीजिंग इट बिकम्स D3. D3 is not my lookup value, right? So you need to understand the freezing concept, very important. I will freeze my column here. I also need to freeze this CU part क्योंकि वो D और U T कुछ बन जाएगा. U R D let's see ये क्या हो गया, D और V हो गया, which is not true. मेरा जो entire data set है which is this CU. So you also need to freeze. ये अपना 4 कर दो. Because I have selected the entire column, वो खाली column ही दे रहा है, वो row value नहीं दे रहा है, because I have not selected a range here. Okay, now if you drag it will give supplies only, but I need to change it here. इसको 15 कर देंगे तो it will give product name. Okay, so this is why this cell freezing is very important, because you don't have to, no one is going to write the formula in each and every cell, right? You need to drag the formula in any direction, downward, upward, sometimes on the right hand side, left hand side. So for that, it's very important to understand the self freezing concepts. Any questions here? Okay. Before moving to HLOOKUP, now I want to cover this SUMIF because I want to relate it with HLOOKUP. It's not very important. I don't think I have used HLOOKUP very few times uh, in my career so far. But yeah, we'll definitely look. So the only difference is the vertical and the horizontal. The concept remains same. If you get well versed with VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP is not very challenging to learn. Okay. Now we also want to populate these fields. Okay, sales और ये अभी all I need to know is मेरा sales कौन सा position में है. अभी product name मेरा 15 में था, and this becomes 16, 17, 18, 19. So accordingly I will just do the numbering here. 16. अभी now there is one best practice will be, if you don't have to write this again and again ना, मैंने ऊपर numbering किया हुआ है, right? You just link it with that cell. Link कर दो. Again you need to freeze it because मैं नीचे drag करूंगा तो वो F1 का F2 हो जाएगा. So I need to freeze मेरा row count. Okay, now you don't have to write the numbering again and again because मैंने यहाँ पे numbering यहाँ पे mention कर दिया एक time में, which is automatically taking from there. Okay, otherwise आपको ऐसा manually you have to write, let's say 16 है, आपको सबका नंबरिंग मैनुअली चेंज करना पड़ेगा. यहाँ पे जाके 17 करो, change it to 18 here, change it to 19 here. Okay, to avoid doing it manually, what you can do, you can just link it with the numbering that you have put. But if I drag it here, it becomes F1 ka F2 हो जाएगा. Hence I need to freeze the row part. Drag it here, and if I just drag it below, it will take values. Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Hmm. Right. Hmm. Huh. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it will not work in that case. You have to, every other column should be on the right of your lookup value. Okay, in that case, yeah. So you need to basically, do some cleaning. Very first thing, your basically your primary key has to be your, on the first column. That kind of data cleaning you need to do, and it's a very good question. So what she asked is, let's say if my sales मेरा ऑर्डर आईडी के पहले रहता था तो आई कैनॉट गो बैकवर्ड. मैं इसको बैकवर्ड सिलेक्ट नहीं कर सकता हूँ. ऐसा बैकवर्ड सिलेक्ट नहीं कर सकता. आई नीड टू गो on the right hand side only. Okay, so you need to ensure that all the columns should be on the is after the order id, after your unique column. Are you getting what I'm saying? Say everyone is clear, right? Let's say if I यहाँ पे रहता था तो मैं सेल्स, इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल टू फॉर मी टू पॉपुलेट सेल्स यूजिंग वी लुकअप बिकॉज ये ऑर्डर आईडी के पहले हैज टू बी ऑन द राइट हैंड साइड. Everyone clear? There are different formula. There is an index match formula, but we'll not get into that. Ideally, if you arrange the data properly, then it should work. It's basically your job is to so reporting starts with data cleaning first. You need to ensure your data is cleaned. It has been arranged properly. Index match becomes little tricky, and it becomes little confusing also. And So I'll just rearrange it again. Okay. Now, everyone clear with the VLOOKUP, or do you want me to do it one more time? Everyone clear? Lookup value. Yeah. So there are lookup value is your value that you want to see, want to find. Table area is your entire data set. You need to ensure your first selection is the lookup value column. Column index is the numbering, the position that you want, and this will be always zero, which is false. Okay. Now, okay. Now let's get into the. See here we had a unique value. Okay, order ID or uska we found the respective values based on the order ID. Okay. Now the second scenario is I have currently don't pay attention to this particular. I'll just mark it, you know, black for now. Okay. So I have product ID, product name मैंने VLOOKUP से लिया हुआ है. What I want is see this product. This is not necessary that this product will be unique. You know, product तो कितनी बार भी order हो सकता है ना मेरे raw data में. It can be appear multiple times. Okay. So here it's not a prerequisite that this should be an unique value. Now what I want from my raw data set, I want to find total sales of this product. Okay, total sum करना है मेरे को वो sale का. This you can achieve through pivot also. Okay, but you may come across a scenario when where you cannot use pivot table. You have to find it using sum if options. You'll definitely get into a scenario wherein you don't have to separate your data set. You cannot use a pivot table in a different sheet. You want to create a column which will have sum of your product ID. Now we'll use formula called sum if. Okay, combination of sum if. I'll write a formula equal to sum if. Very first thing it is asking is range. Okay, range is from your data set equal to sum if. Let's understand sum if first. Very first thing it is asking the range, the criteria and the sum range. Sum range यानी क्या वैल्यू का सम करना है. Criteria is basically your product ID, and range is from your data set. So let's select the range first. Okay, my product ID. This is my product ID. I'll select a column I'm selecting. इसमें you don't have to drag. My criteria will be my cell which has product ID. Okay, this is C20. Now sum range मेरे को sales का चाहिए. So I'll find it. I'll go back to my data set का tab. I will select sales का पूरा column. इतना ही. I think I did something. uh, it's possible that इतना ही है. We'll just do a quick pivot table to match the values. Okay. Product ID and sales. Let me find that product ID. Okay, we are right. 51 ही है उतना. So let's understand what we did. Now what I want is total sum of this product. Okay, total. This may appear multiple times in my raw data set, but I want to sum it up. There are multiple ways, as I said, you can do it using pivot table, and we just saw how to do that using pivot table. But there will be a scenario where you cannot use pivot table. You don't want to lose your basically everything need to be in the data set only. Okay, you cannot create a pivot table in a separate sheet. That will not work. Now let's write the formula again. Okay, when you write sum if formula, very first thing it is asking is range. Okay, range मेरा raw data tab में है. My range is मेरा product ID का column. Okay, I'll select the entire column, comma. I'll come back to my ये वाला. My criteria is this. Okay, C20. Sum range I want to take it from my sales का column. Okay. Sum if range will be my this product ID, criteria will be my comma this, and my sum range will be. Now if I drag this, okay, it is giving me the total value, sales value. Any questions here? Again, you need to practice this, to get three things that it is asking: range, criteria, and sum range. Range is my uh, the value that I want to find. So you need to select the entire column, that is column A. Criteria is your product ID that you want to find, जिसका sum आपको find करना है, which is in this ये particular sheet में it is in the C20. Then the sum range is sales का. So I selected the entire column here. Okay. Now in this case you cannot drag the formula. Okay, you cannot, because your it may work, but then ideally best practices is that write the formula again. Now I want to find same for quantity. Okay, and then I want to find order quantity का भी sum करना है, so we'll again write the sum if formula. Now we need to understand where do we write sum formula and where do we write count formula. Order का count चाहिए मेरे को, so for that I will write a count formula, but quantity का I want sum, so I need to write a sum formula. Sum if same, that is range will be same, that is my order ID, criteria will be again same, that is my a. Now what is different here is my sum range should come from the quantity and not from sales. Here I will select quantity. Any questions? Okay, now I want to find the order ka count. Okay, count चाहिए मेरे को. In this case I cannot use sum, because sum is giving me the sum, right? It is not giving me कि कितना order था उसमें, 3 था, 4 था order था ये product के लिए. I want to find the order count for the particular product. I'll use count if. Count if. Here we just have two parameter, that is range and criteria. Okay, that is the range will be my product ID का पूरा column, and my criteria will be it will basically tell you that how many times this particular product ID is appearing in your data set. Okay, so 2 times here. This is your order का count. You don't have to select order column for this. Your data set is basically in such a way that you can just count the number of time the product is appearing in your database. Okay, hence it just has two parameter. Okay, range kya hai, criteria kya hai. Range is this product ka id, and then how many times product is appearing in your data, that is product criteria. You don't have to select the count ka jaisa. For sum ka there were three parameters. You have to specify explicitly specify the sum range, कौन सा column से लेना है. Okay, but count में वो नहीं है. Count में it is only two things, that is range and criteria. All right, similarly there is an called average. If you want to find the average sales of particular product, उसका average sales कितना है, that will be average if range will be again same, product id, criteria will be again my product id, and average range will be again sales ka column. I want to find the average sales. Okay, now it is giving me the another way to find is, if it is correct or no, you this divided by 2, divided by same, right? It is giving the average. Okay, any questions here? So definitely have to practice this. Once I'll be sharing the recording. Before we meet next week, you need to be completely well versed with all these concepts, so that the things becomes easy. Later on. Now let's unhide this piece. Now मेरा criteria क्या है? I want to do the sum, but it has one more condition here. It is just not one the simple based on the product ID. Now we want to sum based on the product ID and city. Okay, दो conditions हैं यहाँ पे. I want to do the sum based on the product ID and the city. Okay, in this case we cannot use sum if. There is a formula called sum ifs equal to sum ifs. SB है. So इसमें very first thing you need to select is sum range, raw data. सम रेंज जो मेरा चाहिए वो सेल्स में से चाहिए मेरे को, कॉमा सेकंड इज क्राइटेरिया रेंज वन. क्राइटेरिया रेंज वन इज माय प्रोडक्ट आईडी, देन क्राइटेरिया वन, criteria 1 is my product id. Now comma, it is asking for the criteria range 2. Criteria range 2 is my city, और उसका जो क्राइटेरिया है अगेन इज माय city. Now it is giving the sum for the particular multiple criteria here. मेरा जो पहला first sum if that we saw, it was only based on the product id. Now the condition is I want to sum based on the product id and the city. Okay, it is giving 25. ये क्या हो गया? Okay, maybe there is no value for, no, I just randomly picked the city here. Now we'll see, we'll just filter our raw data and see if this is correct. पाँच में लेके आता हूँ मैं. ऑर्डर आईडी एंड हाँ ये है city, see this has a value of 25 only. Okay, hence it is giving 25. Here any questions? I know this will be a little confusing because but these are very important concept to understand. Now the same thing applies for count if also. You have a multiple criteria based on which you want to find the count. You want to apply the same thing. I'll just quickly write a formula count, and the formula here will be count ifs. Instead of count if, it will be count ifs. The first thing it is asking for criteria range 1. Criteria range 1 is my product car range raw database. Second thing it is asking for criteria. Criteria is my product. Then next thing it is asking is the, and there is no limit. There is no limit. If you have multiple conditions there, it can go up to nine, like n number of criteria. Criteria range 2 is my city, and criteria is my city here. That's it. Clear? Any questions here? Okay. Huh. Yeah. This is for some ifs. Some if is different. Some if may, I mean, the parameter that you pass is in a different order. Some ifs may, it's in a different order. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'll be sharing. Yeah, I'll be sharing the file. I have. Yes. No, no. Yeah, I'll combine and share so that we keep everything in one. But I'm using a different file here. But yeah, I'll combine both and I will share it along. Okay. Acha, let me check. I'll again share everything. All the tabs from the previous session also and this also. Okay. Okay. So this is all I wanted to cover in my complex formula. Now we'll see very basic, how to create a basic charts. One way we saw is creating is using a pivot table. That is also a good way. I will not say it's not, and that is currently being used widely. Many people prefer to use charts directly from the pivot table, and it's a good way to learn. But for our next topics, we need to create a dynamic dashboards. What I mean to say is, I'll just reopen the dynamic dashboard example. Okay, we want to create a dynamic dashboard. What I mean is, there are, you will see a drop down here. When I select a drop down, it is changing the chart. We have a radio buttons here. When I'm changing the radio button, it is changing the, you know giving the values pertaining to the radio button. That is, when I select sales, it is giving sales. All these dynamic things you cannot achieve through pivot charts, directly from the pivot chart. You need a workaround for that. and below we have this scroll bar here. When you are scrolling, you are seeing that chart is moving. Okay, so what I wanted to cover is basically dynamic dashboard. Hence, we'll see how to create charts manually and not using the pivot. Okay, so we'll cover this. This is our end goal for this program. We will, by the end of the session, you all will be well versed with creating this particular charts. And it's not that challenging. If you are very good, very well versed with if conditions and VLOOKUP, and a basic sum if, this is a very super easy. It's just an technique that I have used, and understanding the technique is not that challenging. But provided need to be very well versed with the VLOOKUP and if condition. These are the concepts which you need to be thoroughly clear with. Okay. Now let's first understand how to create some basic charts. I'll just take the data from the pivot that we created. Okay. Now let's say I just need to create a small. I'll create a sheet, the values. So see, this is giving insights, but the people like usually prefer you know seeing insights through some charts so that it easily pointing out the insights. Looking at this also, it's giving you an insight, but there are some additional. When you basically talk about insights, it should give some graphical representation, that it should basically show you which particular segment is doing well, just by looking at the chart. Okay, so I'll create a small pie chart here. I'll go to insert. Here we have an option. Okay, I'll give a pie chart and I'll just hide the values. Okay, so very basic chart that I've created, and now it is, just by looking at uh, the chart, I'm able to figure out that consumer segment is contributing to the maximum sales. ये आपको सिर्फ नंबर देख के feasible नहीं था. It was like a little bit stress that you need to give to understand the numbers. But looking at the chart, it's very easy. To make it more easy, you can put labels here. Add labels. Add data labels. you know you can then change it to just format data labels. I'll remove the value. I'll just put the percentage here. Okay, now this is a very simple chart that I created. And then there are a lot of chart, like if you want to show a monthly trend. Okay, let's create a one more small pivot here. I'll use this only. We have month column. I don't have month here. Let me create month equal to text. I've already covered this in my first session, right? I am मेरा month का field नहीं है इसमें. I just need to create one month का field based on the order ID. Now pivot. Okay, this pivot. I'll have to. Because I have put an additional column, I need to reselect the range here because it is out of the range. Na? Currently, when you when you select when you see the range here, it is still U. But मैंने एक additional column डाला है उसमें, which will be basically V तक रहेगा. I'll select V. और आइए. Now you cannot have a column without the heading. Huh? When you're trying to select the entire column, इसमें तो मैं heading नहीं था. Hence it was creating problem. So what I did, I selected the range. Okay. When you see this pivot, it is taking the range now. It is not taking the entire columns. It is taking 8225001. Ideally, this is not the best practice because your data will grow, right? Next week the row count will be higher than this. So best practice is to select the entire column. But for our example, it's okay. I want to change my pivot. I want, instead of product ID, I want months. Okay. Now I want to show the sales का trend. I'll take this and I will, किधर गया मेरा chart का? Okay, here it is. I'll just paste the data here. I'll just insert. Then I'll take a. So usually when you want to show the trend, ideally you'll make use of line chart. Okay, the line chart is available here. Okay, now it is giving me the simple sales. Okay, so there are multiple options available. If you want to see the top 10 cities, then you will make use of bar chart. Let me see if I have anything available. I'll remove segment and I will say city here. Okay, I need top 10. Top 10 कैसा आएगा? For top 10 I need to sort my data. I'll sort and I'll say largest to smallest. Okay, and then I'll pick top 10. Now for top 10 you cannot use line chart. It will not make sense. Okay, ideally line chart is also fine, but then the industry practice is, you, for like the dimensions like the region and the country, you make use of uh, bar chart. Here we have bar chart. Here, here we have bar chart. Okay. Okay. So a very simple thing, you just need to know where to find all these options. So when you click here, there is under insert, there are various options available, various charts available. you know we also have tree map and everything, which is a really good thing. These things came up after, I think, 2007 version. But generally for high end analytics, Excel is not much used. uh, our main goal is to learn data analytics and the advanced BI tools, that is Tableau, Power BI, and we are covering Tableau in the next training program. Okay, uh, it's going to be very exciting. So what you're going to learn here is going to be a foundation of data analytics. You will be able to create basic charts, reports. But I'll say, market, the demand is for high end analytics. Even for the basic analytics, you need to make use of some BI tools like Tableau and Power BI. Hence, we will not stop here. Once you get well versed with creating charts, um, and dynamic dashboards in Excel, the next step is to learn how to make use of Tableau and all those. You know, we'll also you also see MS Access and how to manage data and do data cleaning using Access database. I think that's it for today, and I think we have covered whatever we planned. Uh, Next session will be either on Saturday or Sunday. Maybe I'll try to communicate in next 2 days so that everyone can plan accordingly. Any questions? Any questions on this? अरे यार, ये तो चालू ही नहीं हुआ. Okay, I think yeah, we are done. So let's meet next Saturday or Sunday. I'll let you know. Okay, I'll share this Excel. So I have a recording from my previous session which covers basically exactly the same thing. I'm sure nothing is missed, and I will also share this Excel file. Okay, and consolidate, I'll consolidate both the Excel files from the previous session as well as this session and share it with everyone on email. Okay, thank you very much, thank you very much for your time.